Hello and welcome to the DFS Coach Talk podcast. Today is Thursday, February 20th. My name is Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by one of the GPP sharks in the NBA DFS industry for sure. He is known to take down tournaments left and right, and that is my man, Andrew Hansen. How are you, Andrew?
I'm doing great, Coach. Glad to be here. Yeah, I usually take them down to the left since I am a lefty, but you got to be versatile. Got to be able to use both hands. So whatever it takes.
Hey, I know it, man. I know you get it done. That's all I know. Right hand, left hand, whatever. But very exciting. This is our first podcast for DFS Coach Talk. We have been very, very blessed to get a group of guys together here to branch out and do a 7-day free content, NBA DFS, and we're going to lead into some other sports as time goes on. But, NBA is our lifeblood. Andrew and I, and Mike Apotria also is going to be the other pro. There'll be the three of us, and we will have 7-day week coverage in front of the paywall. Obviously a lot of our listeners know us, excuse me, from Hoopball. We've branched out. We still love those guys over at Hoopball and do some things with them, but we wanted to take on our own venture and get out there, and we were motivated to get something going and get it started. And actually, the discussion started with the Kobe Bryant tragedy here just, almost 3 weeks ago. For me, anyway, what it did was it definitely shook me to my core because I'm, such a big Kobe fan, and was, the fact his daughter and just the families there, it was brutal. But it sort of, got us all talking about, why wait to do things? Have the Mamba mentality, get out there, give it a shot, do what you need to do to get it done. And, you can't win unless you play. And as Andrew always says, you can't make the shot unless you shoot it. So, we wanted to just get into something that we felt would be really something in the DFS industry that would move the needle. At the very first start here, and we'll mention this at the end of a lot of our podcasts, but, because the tragedy of the Kobe Bryant situation is still all fresh in our minds, we want to support the fund that they've set up because, obviously Kobe's family is well taken care of, but there were 7 other people that died on that helicopter, and they have set up a fund, and that was from his wife, Vanessa. And the name of the fund is Mamba on 3. And if you go to mambaon3.org, that's MAMBAONTHREE.org. So all spelled out. And we would really hope that some of our listeners would get on there and donate, because that just, it makes even a little bit of difference, and we want to make that difference. So wanted to start out there, but we'll mention that sort of at the end of every show for people to remind them, because those people are going to be feeling those losses for a lifetime. You don't recover from something like that, that's for sure. So sorry to start on a somber note, but I wanted to let all of our listeners know sort of what pushed us here, and that's what's great. I mean, Kobe, you talk about having a lasting effect for generations. We're so motivated. We're doing something small that you just got to go out there and do it like this. But what about all the other people? The kid that works extra in the gym that gets a scholarship, the person that gets out there and goes for the job interview that they wanted, all following just Kobe's work ethic and sort of what's being preached and talked about on his behalf. So we're really excited, and wanted to let everybody know that that really was the tipping point for us to get out here and do this. So as far as the show goes, again, we're coming to you 7 days a week. We're going to post right around 1 p.m. Eastern every day, and we are going to break down the slate, talk through it for our listeners that followed us for the last year, and we had, I believe, 45,000 downloads per month. So we know we have a big group that are going to follow us over here to from Hoopball as well, and we still recommend you listen to Hoopball for your year-long stuff and everything, and some of their DFS stuff. But following us over here to DFS Coach Talk is, we're going to just grow this, but we're going to follow a little bit of the same format that we used to, because it works so well for Andrew and Mike and I. And for those that are brand new listeners that never heard us on Hoopball, the whole purpose of this podcast being an early podcast before all the news breaks and everything else is what we want to do is we want to follow a 3-step process. And we talk about this briefly on every podcast. And really, the reason we do is because we've all been extremely successful in this industry for quite a long time. I've won consistently 5 years in a row in NBA DFS, and I have those numbers to that I can throw. I'll throw those up on our website, and they some of that information is already out there. But we've done it by tuning in to a strong podcast that gives us some information to start building a lineup. Reminding us who's hurt, doing all of the things that are important. And there's some good podcasts out there, and we've all listened to some of them, and a lot of the good ones are behind the paywall. And so when we came up with this idea, about a year ago, we wanted to sort of put all of that information that was being passed on and put it in a format that we felt was going to be very usable for everybody that listened in. So, you'll see each day that we're going to go over all the injuries. We'll go over the spreads and the totals on all the games, so get an idea of where that stands. And that will give you that first step. The second step of the process is following our DFS pros, Michael, Andrew, and I on Twitter, and we'll give out those pretty soon here. I don't want to jam up too much at the beginning of the show, but we'll give those out. And then also following us on our website. We are at DFSCoachTalk.com. Everything that we do is DFS Coach Talk. We're on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. We're on YouTube, DFS Coach Talk. And obviously, all of our podcasts can be found by searching DFS Coach Talk. So it makes it pretty simple. No dashes, no underscores, just pretty easy and straightforward. So, that second piece, like I say then, is following us on all those entities throughout the afternoon. And then the last step, that third step, which is the most important, I guess they're all equally important, but the third part is you got to find that last 30 minutes before lock to be in front of your computer, your laptop, your phone, wherever you do your DFS play, and just lock in 30 minutes up until lock, because we'll be on our website in Discord talking the whole time, and you can see our tweets going out there, and we'll be really following things closely, because that last 30 minutes you're going to get any late player news. You're also going to get the starting lineups for all the early games. So if there are 5-7 o'clock games and Eastern time at that 6:30, that last 30 minutes, you're going to have 10 lineups. So that helps a little bit as well, because some sites do not have late lock. So you want to really be zoned in, because, DFS is so competitive, you can't afford to take a zero in anything. So you want to zone in that last 30 minutes, make sure your lineups are set. Definitely join us at DFSCoach.com, and we'll help you finalize those lineups. And then there you go. That's sort of the combination that we have found that has worked. I've utilized that for 5 years. Andrew and Mike and I have been doing podcasts for a year, and we have gotten such a fantastic response from our really devout listeners and people that are sending tweets and everything. And shout out to all over the planet too. We get a lot of stuff from Australia, England, Pakistan. It's crazy how DFS has really spread internationally. So that is the plan. And, so let's dive in, Andrew. Sorry to go into that big diatribe there, but I just wanted to sort of set the pace for how everything's going to work every day, so that everybody sort of knows what to expect. And that's it, man. Are you still there? Did you fall asleep yet?
No, I'm here. Good overview. And it's exciting here to be part of this new venture. So let's get after it.
All right. We have only one 7:00 game today, and it is the first game on the slate. But before we get into that, we get to do my favorite part, which is the important player news of the day. And I gather this information up to the minute prior to us jumping on the air, and I have that information I'll go through. Some days it's a short list. Some days it's a ridiculous list. Today's isn't too bad. So if you need to take notes or re-listen to this part, or mark this part to when you're doing your lineup so that you don't forget some of this player news, this would be the time to do it. All right, first guy, Myers Leonard for Miami. He is out, as is his teammate Tyler Hero, also out. We do have Kevin Looney confirmed in, so he will play tonight. Jabari Parker is back. He had been out quite some time, so he is going to suit it up. We don't see anything on here that I'm looking at the notes of a minutes restriction, but I would assume they're not going to throw him in there a ton of minutes first game in. So just something to keep aware of, and we'll also keep watching to see if we get any minutes restriction news on him. Cody Martin missed a few games for the Hornets before the break. He's confirmed in, as well as Terry Rozier. So that's really good news, because he missed that last game before the All-Star break and had been playing some good ball. So he's in. This is mostly good news. Obviously the All-Star break did some good for some of these guys. George Hill had missed a week or so prior to the break. He's back, and he's ready to go. So that's awesome. Here's our first guy that is going to be on our big watch list, because he is the dreaded questionable 50-50, which always is very nerve-wracking for us in the DFS world. And it is a late game as well, and that's Eric Gordon from Houston. So we're going to keep a close eye on him. Kyle Korver is out. We have another 50-50 guy from Atlanta, DeAndre Hunter. That news is important as well. Alex Len out. Chandler Hutchison is out. I was hearing he may be back, but they've already ruled him out. That's disappointing, because he's one of those really strong up-and-coming players for the Bulls, and they need all the help they can get. Denzel Valentine out. And Clint Capella, who is yet to suit up yet for the Hawks, remains out for, as what it says here, several weeks with a heel injury. And that's it, man. That is it. So not too bad. We only have like 3 that we really want to keep an eye on. Some days, man, when they're in the middle of back-to-backs and all that, just figuring out who's going to get the minutes can be pretty rough. So, all right, buddy, we're going to get you involved right now. You're going to be the main man going forward, because as our listeners know, in the past, Mike and Andrew are the GPP experts. I'm the cash pro, so a lot more goes into making multiple builds and looking at a lot more options on the GPP side. And cash side's a little more conservative, a little less risk. And, my guys that I choose are usually a little bit smaller pool than those that Andrew and Mike does. So first game, again, it is that 7 p.m. game. It's the Milwaukee Bucks at the Detroit Pistons. Big spread here. First game right out of the chute. We have a blowout potential that is always a concern. Milwaukee's a 13.5-point favorite. The total is 225.5. We have Milwaukee at a 119 implied total, which is the second highest on the slate, and the Detroit Pistons, who are not looking too great, at a 106, which is the third lowest. So, Mr. Andrew Hansen, our first game ever to completely break down here on the famous DFS Coach Talk. You've got it, buddy.
All right. Well, this is exciting. Because this is the first game, I think the first player we should mention is Giannis, because he is the MVP caliber player. And I don't think I'll play him much in tournaments, but I just wanted to make sure he was the first guy we mentioned. I didn't want to start talking about any of these bench guys. But, you mentioned the big spread, and both times these teams have played this season, Milwaukee has won by more than that spread. They won by 14, they won by 24, and I have no reason to believe this is going to be anything different. I mean, Detroit is just going in down, getting rid of all their players. They just bought out Reggie Jackson. So they are not interested in winning this year, and I don't think they're going to keep this one close. So I'm not going to have a lot of exposure to this game. I don't think I'll play Giannis much. I think I'll save that money for some of the stars later in the slate. I think if I'm going to play somebody from Milwaukee, it would be one of the value players. Pat Connaughton is 3.5. He may come in with a little bit of boost after that performance in the dunk contest.
Yeah.
Which was
I wonder if he'll wear that same outfit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that would comply with the league uniform rules, unfortunately. No. But
shout out to White Men Can't Jump, the movie. That's Woody Harrelson. Right. That's way nice. Back.
Yeah, that's right. But both you and I saw that one for sure back in the heyday.
Yeah.
So you mentioned George Hill's back in the lineup, and that could definitely take away a couple minutes from Pat Connaughton. So not psyched about him. One thing I want to watch for in this game is what happens off the bench with some of these power forwards. Marvin Williams is on this team now, and so I'm curious to see if he gets minutes or Ilyasova continues to get minutes. I probably won't play either one of them. I'll wait and see how that plays out. So with all that being said, I may not get much exposure to the Bucks. Over on the Detroit side, that's where I'm going to find the guy that I'm most interested in this game, and that's Christian Wood. Yeah. He is, really good price tag on DraftKings at 6.9. In the last 4 games without Drummond, he's averaged 33.25 minutes. So, he's really kind of solidifying himself, getting more of a role. So I'll look at him, and then maybe a value play from Detroit. Markieff Morris is 3.8. Okay. I think he could have some success off the bench against either Marvin Williams or Ilyasova. And then Langston Galloway is 3.7 on DraftKings. He's a guy that I rarely play, but in the last game with Reggie Jackson still on the team, he got 30 minutes. And so with Kennard still out, and now Reggie Jackson gone, I think he's going to get significant minutes, so I think he's a little bit underpriced. And, that's my breakdown for game number 1.
Very good. 2 things I wanted to mention, too, as we're into the first game, and you guys will obviously, and gals, all get used to this. But we'll also, from time to time, refer to some pricing, and we'll generally bounce around the 2 main sites, FanDuel and DraftKings, when we're talking about pricing. Like, for example with Giannis, for me, his price tag on both sites is just enormous. And in a game that could blow out, I know a lot of the industry will probably think this way too, but it is a little bit of a risk. Yes, he's a big part of the blowout, but, it's just painful to, have him in that first game and all of a sudden they're up 25 and he doesn't play in the fourth quarter. So that's certainly a consideration. But we'll always, you'll hear us refer to the pricing on those 2 sites, and especially if there's a big difference. We've noticed that the week prior to the All-Star break, it sort of got ridiculous. There were some guys, $1,500 difference in salary on the site. So if there's some of those, just free plays, we're going to take them. Also, 2 of the factors I utilize in doing my handicapping every day on these is looking at the pace of play and the team defensive efficiency. That's just two of about 20 things that I look at, and I'll go over those on one of these shows. But and I'll mention that on each game as well as we're going to break them down. Like Milwaukee, for example, is the number one pace in the league, and Detroit is 26th. So I mention those now because it's a massive pace-up game for Detroit. Detroit's obviously going to be totally shorthanded with their guys. So it does give a chance for two or three of these guys from Detroit to break the slate. I mean, somebody's got to score the 106. And with Drummond and Jackson and all these guys gone and Kennard out, you got to start looking at the Browns and D Roses and Christian Wood for sure. Those are probably the three top candidates for me. I'm not a Thon Maker guy. I think Markieff Morris, if he gets a deep run, could also definitely, more as a GPP guy. But, those guys are all in play. And a lot of it, has to do with pace up. I'm sure with all these changes now, they're going to try to be positioning for minutes played and for their role with the new team as it is. So, I'm with you, though. Milwaukee, I'm not going to touch Milwaukee. I think the bottom line there is, they have such a deep rotation and everybody's back and, the game could easily blow out. So the expensive guys, even Middleton, they're just a little too pricey for me. And then, the DiVincenzo's and those kind of guys, it's just too much risk for me. But on the defensive efficiency side, the only negative part about playing multiple Detroit guys is Milwaukee is number one in the league in team defensive efficiency. So that creates a little bit of an issue, and you got to really look at that. I mean, it is a 6-game slate, so it's not like we're going to have to pick just between a few guys like a 2 or 3 game slate. So, and we'll see how the salaries fit. I still think a guy or two from Detroit's a good play. Detroit, by the way, ranks 21st in team defensive efficiency, which doesn't make you feel real confident that they can stay in that game either. Okay, any final thoughts on Milwaukee-Detroit, Andrew?
No, I'm ready for game 2. As a tournament guy, this one's going to be a little bit more appealing to me.
Yeah, this is nuts. We've got a 7:30 game, the Miami Heat at the Atlanta Hawks. Heat are a 6.5-point road favorite. And we have this tied for the second highest total at 229.5. We have an implied total for the Heat of 118. Atlanta Hawks 111.5. Miami has the 27th fastest team, or should I say the 4th slowest. So they are playing a half-court set and defending the heck out of people and slowing the game down a bit. Atlanta, 4th fastest team. They've actually slipped down just a little bit. They were the fastest for a while, but they are the 4th quickest, so it's a pace-up game, which picks up some of the Miami guys. And then defensively, Miami's 13th, which is pretty good. Everybody thinks they're a little bit higher than that, but they do have some weaknesses. You certainly don't want to roster guys against, the Jimmy Butlers of the world because they will shut you down, but they do have a few people you can attack still in that lineup. And Atlanta is all the way down there at 28, so the 3rd worst defense in the league, which definitely is going to help Miami. So you've got the floor, my man.
Yeah, so for this one, these teams have already played 3 times. The first 2 games weren't that high scoring, barely over 200. And as a tournament player, what I'm looking for is a higher scoring game like they played the 3rd time out. And that was the only time that Trae Young really played. He missed the second game. First one, he only played 11 minutes. So he got 41 minutes in that 3rd game, and lo and behold, the total was 256. Now, granted, that game went to overtime, but he's the one who's going to really push the pace and give this one a chance to have some juiciness on the fantasy side. So with him in the lineup here, I've got some interest in this game, mostly on the Miami side,
Sure.
Going against that 28th ranked defense. And I noticed that Nunn has really fared well in this matchup, and he's getting steadily better.
Well, why that is.
Well, he's got Trae Young to
There's
play
80.
against.
There's 85, and one of the other things, and we don't want to we could make this podcast 4 hours long every day, but one of my favorite things is, I gave the team defensive efficiency, but if you look up defensive real plus minus, it's on advanced statistics on ESPN, so it's always updated. There are 85 players in the NBA this year that have played at least 1 minute at point guard, and from a defensive real plus minus, Trae Young is 85, brother.
Not good.
Dead last.
But good for Kendrick Nunn tonight, especially at his price tag on DraftKings. He's only 4.9, and when they played last time and Young was in the game, he went for 36, 6, and 4. So I'll have plenty of Nunn in my lineups, and then Butler and Bam both had triple doubles in that overtime game. So
wow.
Got to look at them for guys that are, studs who can have that triple-double upside. And on DraftKings, they're both under 8K. So I think you got to look at those two guys. And then Jay Crowder has really started off well with Miami, came out, like gangbusters.
Yeah.
45 fantasy points.
Great pickup for them, man.
Yeah.
Great pickup.
Yeah, really good fit. So he's in consideration for me at 5K. And then on the Atlanta side, I don't think I'm going to get much Trae Young or Collins. They're priced up a little bit. Numbers aren't great against Miami's solid defense. The one place I'm looking is that injury news that you mentioned. If DeAndre Hunter is out, then I'm going to look for Cam Reddish to get the start, get good minutes. He's only 4.2. So I'm going to follow the news and potentially play him if Hunter is out.
Very good. No, I like it, man. I really do. From my side on this game initially, I think Miami is the most stackable team on the slate tonight. I mean, they're going against a porous Atlanta defense. It's only a 6.5 point spread, so Vegas thinks Atlanta can hang in, being that it's in Atlanta. I'm with you though, man. I think the first two guys for me are Butler and Nunn. I think they're both extremely playable. With Tyler Hero being out, there's he's going to chuck some shots up there which will not every game, and those won't be taken obviously because he's not playing. So that might get a few more up there for those two guys. And the third guy that I sort of like for Miami, and that's Duncan Robinson. I like the fact that I know Crowder has mixed up the rotation a little bit, but especially with Hero out, I know Spoelstra really likes to have firepower in there. And even though Crowder's a great fit for Miami as far as the defensive side, the grit, the hard work, I mean, he just fits perfectly into their culture. They still depend on their gunners to score. And Nunn and Duncan Robinson are two of the top guys to do that. And Hero is as well when he's back. So, I'm real comfortable with all three of those guys. They're going to definitely sprinkle into my lineups without question. And as far as the Atlanta side, I'm with you. I don't want to play up to take Trae because I think he's going to get Butler defense. I think Butler's going to play him a lot. I think that, it's just not the best scenario for him, and he's very expensive on both sides. And Collins is going to get guarded by Bam. Bam's been obviously now with making the All-Star game, and just his confidence level has gone through the roof. He's definitely one of the most improved players in the league, if not the most improved. So I'm with you. I'm going to run from Atlanta a little bit, but definitely dive on a few of these Miami guys.
Excellent.
All right, we go on to 8 o'clock game, Charlotte Hornets at the Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls are a 4.5 point favorite. That's really a barn burner of a game there. Over-under is a wonderful 210.5, which happens to be the dead last lowest. Only a 107.5 for Chicago and 102.5 for Charlotte. This could be an ugly one. As far as pace, just to make it even worse, Charlotte's the slowest team in the league. How you're the slowest team in the league with Devontae Graham and Rozier, basically two fast point guards, I have no idea. But they're dead last in pace. Chicago 15th, right in the middle of the pack, not terrific. Charlotte also struggles on the defensive side, 25th, and Chicago almost right in the middle at 14th. So I don't know. What can you make out of this one, buddy?
Well, certainly not going to stack it. This game would have to go to triple overtime to probably be worthwhile.
You told me off air on our very first show you were going to stack 4x4 on this first game right off.
Maybe before opening night when they played earlier in the season, they actually had a good output. But now it's like they just want to focus on defense. They're kind of like Detroit. I'm not really sure either team is interested in winning. I think they would be better off positioning themselves for a high lottery pick. But yeah, it was really 83. It was 83-73 the last time these two teams played. So,
oh God,
not going to get much out of this game. On the Charlotte side, the guy I'm most interested in is a value play. It's Jalen McDaniels, and he's been stepping up. I really like the way he's trending with Marvin Williams gone. Check out these last three games. His minutes have gone 19, 17, and 23. And his fantasy points on DraftKings have gone 9, 12, 24. So at a near minimum price, he'll be one of my key value plays for tournaments.
Now, did he come off the bench for PJ Washington mainly?
He came off the bench. Yep.
Interesting play. Wow. Now that's a GPP sweet little flyer that'll be low owned.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my main target on Charlotte. You mentioned Rozier and Martin coming back in, so that's going to mix things up a little bit for Graham and Monk. On the Chicago side, I'll get some Levine. He had that monster game against Charlotte where he had 49 points.
Yeah.
So I'll get a couple shares of him. White has had 2 out of 3 good games against them. And then the other news you mentioned with Chandler Hutchinson out, that's going to create an opportunity for another value play. So I'm going to wait and see what the starting lineup is. If Shaquille Harrison's in the lineup, he's minimum price on DraftKings. That's a possibility. And then for the really crazy tournament players who are going to put in 20 lineups or more, you could look at Adam Mokoka at minimum price.
Excuse me? I thought that was the name of the ball boy.
Yeah, I mean, he's only had really one legitimate appearance, but he went off against New Orleans for 15 points in 5 minutes. So,
oh, my God. Talk about a secret squirrel. We'll talk about the secret. We'll usually call a secret squirrel for the day, but that's a secret rat. That's not even a secret squirrel, dude.
Yeah. So again, if you're playing 20 lineups and you've got, let's say, you want to try Shaquille Harrison for 3 or 4 lineups because he's starting, just put one in there with Mokoka for fun, and you never know.
That our listeners was from Andrew Hansen. That's with an A. Joe Sarvati was not part of that. Coach was not involved with it. No, I'm with you, man. And sometimes you find a guy like that, he could break a slate for you, but I'm with you. This game's going to be really quick for me. I don't like this game at all. Obviously, it's the worst one on the slate for DFS. A couple things. I have a great trap play here that I think is going to be highly owned, and it is Kobe White. And let me explain why. I do understand that Chicago's backcourt is shorthanded now with Dunn being out for an extended period of time. But what you have to remember is Kobe White played at North Carolina. He grew up and lived right by Charlotte his whole life. And when Chicago played at Charlotte, he really had a fantastic game. But that was because he had purchased 65 tickets for friends and family. He was at home. He was showing out. The coach gave him some extra minutes. But people aren't going to remember that. So they're going to see the stats that he had there. And, yes, he's going to have a bigger role with Dunn out. But I would prefer, if I played anybody from Chicago, I think Satoransky is a little bit better play because he's going to, definitely get a good lion's share of the minutes, and I think is a little bit stronger of a play. And then on the Charlotte side, I think, Chicago has been playing better and better defense. I don't want to spend the money up for Devontae. This is Rozier's first game after missing the game before the All-Star break. So that's it for me on this one, man.
Yeah, I like Satoransky as a pivot there. He's definitely in my player pool as well.
And then, it's just, you definitely, if you have more than like one guy from this game, you got to start worrying a little bit, I think. But all right, we go to another 8 o'clock game. Brooklyn Nets at Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers are minus 8.5. The total is 215.5, the second lowest. And 112 implied for Philly, 103.5 for Brooklyn, which is the second lowest, very low for them. As far as as far as pace goes, Brooklyn's ninth, which isn't bad. Philly's down to 18th. Sort of the big inner battle there. Simmons wants to run and Embiid wants to play half court, and it's looking like their pace is about in the middle at 18. But here's the concern and why the numbers are so low in Vegas. We've got Brooklyn right now as the 8th best defensive team and Philly 5th. So that is interesting, So we've got, we know Philly when Embiid plays is a huge difference maker, and they shut people down like crazy. Now, interesting matchup here with Philly being an 8.5 point favorite. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a fun one to watch because these teams have played 3 times, but Embiid hasn't played in any of those matchups.
Really? Not one of them.
Not one of them. Yeah.
Good catch. Yes.
So that'll be strange because Ben Simmons, you look at his numbers against Brooklyn, he's averaging 55.9 fantasy points.
Yeah.
But Embiid's been out for all of them. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Got it. Yeah, it's going to impact it. And again, I'll tell you another great tool, guys, basketballreference.com. You can go back and look at the advanced stats there. And, I'm giving away trade secrets here, but you do that and you dig in and you can find, what was the usage when Embiid was off the floor with the rest of the guys on the team and stuff like that. It really helps. And I'm basically looking at all that kind of stuff about 5 hours a day. So believe me, it makes a difference. So sorry to interrupt you, man.
No, it's good. So even though Embiid didn't play and now he's back in this matchup, I am going to have a bunch of exposure to Ben Simmons. He went into the break with 2 straight triple-doubles, and he had a big triple-double the last time these two teams met. So I'll have a bunch of him. I'll have some Embiid. The other guy I might look at is Josh Richardson on DraftKings. He's only 4.2. I'm hoping he's finally back and healthy. He had 32 minutes in that last game before the All-Star break, and now a little bit more time to rest up, come out with some fresh legs. So he's the other guy I might play on Philly. Over on Brooklyn, with Kyrie out, certainly there's some attraction to Dinwiddie. He's done okay against Philly, even dealing with Simmons some in terms of scoring. Yeah. LeVert's been coming on lately. He's worth considering. But the price tag that I'm going to look at a little bit is Taurean Prince. He's 4.5. So I like how he's fitting into my builds so far in tournaments. So he'd probably be the guy that I'll end up with the most shares of from the Nets.
Very good, man. I think it's a good take. For me, the Brooklyn side, I'm going to really stay away from. I don't want to play Dinwiddie against lockdown Ben Simmons defense. Simmons can really defend, man. I'm impressed with his just ranginess. It's hard to get the ball past him. And really, I know LeVert's picking it up, and he's going to probably get a decent amount of ownership in the industry. But I think his pricing is fair. I guess if you're going to consider anybody from Brooklyn, that's the guy I'd look at. You do have some value guys that get solid minutes. I think you're right in bringing up Prince. His usage isn't fantastic, but he gets a lot of minutes, and with that comes some opportunity. On the Philly side, I think I'm just, I'm going to make my pillar today my top guy, Joel Embiid. I love the way that he looked. I love the fact that he's got a little bit of edge right now because, there were rumors that Brett Brown was a little bit on the hot seat. There were rumors that Embiid and Simmons were butting heads from, like what I said before. Embiid wanted to, get down in there and get the ball and slow it down, and Simmons wants to push. So I just think he's going to be fired up, for this game. And centers against Brooklyn are always a thing. They have been for the last 2 years, even with DeAndre Jordan coming off the bench. Jared Allen just gets eaten alive generally. And their team defense, the way Atkinson coaches that group, I just don't like their rotation and how they switch, and it allows the bigs to really dominate. So Embiid's my top play. He'll be on all my lineups, cash lineups tonight, and I hope the big fella can get it done.
Yeah, he probably will, no doubt.
All right, 2 games left. Want to mention a couple of things really quickly here, and then we'll finish those up. Again, we'd ask you to definitely tune into our podcast every day if you can. We'd love to have you. You'll be able to find us here very shortly, and some of them they're already on there. You can find us now on YouTube, on Stitcher, Podbean. There's some that have already uploaded. The rest of this week, by Monday, we should also be uploaded on iTunes, Google Play, iHeart. We're also on Spotify now already. So the bottom line is, we register DFS Coach Talk, and it takes a little time, a week or so for iTunes and such to give you the recommended check mark. But for now, this week I'm going to steer everybody to YouTube because I know I'll be posting to that right as soon as we're done with the pod. But in general, you'll be able to get this show 7 days a week, right around 1 p.m. Eastern. And at that point, we'll be on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Spotify, and YouTube. What we would ask you for at this moment is just 2 things. One, give us a look at DFSCoachTalk.com, because we're going to have a lot of what we're talking about here, a lot of information, a lot of potential stuff that you can utilize to really be effective in the DFS world. And then the second thing is, when you listen to these podcasts, it's really important for us to gauge our audience and what they like and don't like and all of the positives. And it also helps our show, since we're starting a new one. And now when you're searching for, if somebody just puts in DFS podcast, we're still down low because we just started. But the more likes you get, the more 5 stars, the more thumbs up, all of those things start bringing you up the ladder. So then, we're going to get noticed a lot more. So, today on YouTube, the first thing you want to do is give us a thumbs up if you would, and then click the little alarm bell, because what that will do is, as soon as I post every day on Red Circle, which shoots it out to all of the different podcast sites, the second it hits YouTube, you'll get a reminder saying, okay, today's live podcast is up. So you're going to want to do that. And then, like I said, the best way to contact all of us, we have a team of 7 that are all superstars, with the 3 pros and 4 other guys that are really strong in the DFS industry. You can find any of us on our website. If you go there and get in our Discord, we're all on there, 24/7. But if you want to communicate with us on Twitter, because that's a great spot to watch for all the news. You want to go to @DFSCoachTalk. That's where all 7 of us are posting constantly. I am at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Andrew is at Language Olympic, all one word, just like it sounds. And our other pro, Mike Apotria, is at MikeApotria. So follow us there. We really, really appreciate your input. Tweet us, shoot us a message on our website. You can, email, you can tweet out there to us, whatever. But you won't have any trouble finding us on any of the mediums, because we're at DFS Coach Talk, period. So it's a pretty easy thing to find. So we appreciate it. We love it. We hopefully get a lot of responses and get the folks that have been listening to us to find us that are probably wondering where we are, and then a whole new crop of folks. It'd be awesome. So awesome stuff, man. There we go. 2 games left. They are the late night games. They're half an hour apart. So this is your double late night. If for those people playing a 2-game late slate, you've got a 10 o'clock Eastern game. Memphis Grizzlies at the Sacramento Kings. This game, the Grizzlies are a 1-point road favorite. Goes to show you the Grizzlies are getting a little momentum going. The total is 229.5, which is the tie for the second highest. You have an implied total for Memphis of 115, Sacramento 114. As far as pace goes, Memphis is the 5th fastest team in the league, and I think people are finally catching on. That was such a great advantage in the first half because every time DFS people are so used to fading Grizzlies players, because for the whole 5 years really that DFS has been around, they were the grindhouse, slow it down, great D, low pace. And I was fortunate enough to watch the Grizzlies in person with my son at the NBA Summer League because they won the championship there. So we saw them play like 5 times, and Brandon Clark was the MVP. And it was just you could tell that new coach, Coach Jenkins, he is a hell of a coach, and he has those guys believing, and they push the ball. The whole Jaw and Triple J and everybody, they are going to be darn good. It's a good time all of a sudden quickly to be a Grizz fan after, I'm sure, being down in the dumps for a couple of years. And then Sacramento does not play that quick. They're 25th in pace, so it is a big pace-up game for them, for Sacramento. Defensively, Memphis is 16th, so below average, which is they have shrunk down there a little bit. They had been playing better defense, so they're a little bit of a target. And Sacramento is 20th, so they're really not doing much of anything very well. So what do you got there, Andrew Hansen?
Well, it is an attractive game on paper. I do expect it to be high scoring. Both times they've played, it's gone over the total that you mentioned. But I'm a little bit concerned about some of the price tags, some of the minutes, the usage being divvied up. I'm not going to hammer this game too hard based on those factors. I mean, you look at the bigs for Sacramento, they are just a mess right now with so many guys in and out of the lineup. You mentioned Parker coming back into the lineup. So that'll be fun to see how he plays. But I'm going to look more to the backcourt for Sacramento. The main guy I'm going to look at is De'Aaron Fox. He was excellent the last time against Memphis. You had his way with Jaw, even threw in 5 steals and 2 blocks. So I like him a lot on DraftKings at 7.4. And, with Bogdanovich and Hield, I hope Coach Walton figures it out that all these guys should be playing 30 minutes every night. And Bogdan is under 5K on DraftKings, so he's going to be my player pool. He's been sort of hit or miss lately. He's been hobbled by injury. So I'm hoping he's one of those guys that really takes advantage of the All-Star break and comes out firing. And then, Buddy Hield off the 3-point victory in the 3-point contest. He's priced up a little bit at 6.6, but, we know he can go off. So he'll be in my player pool. And then got to mention our boy Bazemore for Apatria.
One of his favorite players of all times.
That's right.
And he was part of the reason he lost the Chicken Soup Challenge, which we'll talk about with Mike tomorrow's show. But anyway, that's another story. Go ahead.
Yes. So Bazemore, 4 out of the last 5 games, he's played at least 24 minutes, and he's only 3.5. So not a guy that you can really trust.
No.
But, again, one of those value plays to consider in that price range.
GPP only, that's for sure.
Right. Over on the Memphis side, I don't really think I'll go there much, even though I do expect this to be high scoring. Jaw's an okay price tag at 7K on DraftKings, but I'd rather pay 7.4 for Fox. And I just can't really trust anybody else throughout the Memphis lineup at their price tag. So I'm going to focus more of my ownership on the Sacramento side.
Not bad, not bad. This game is a tough one for me. I mean, the total's really good, and the applied totals for both teams. I think, at least in cash, I'd like to have a guy or two represented from this game because I think you're going to need them. But it's just difficult. First of all, I think Luke Walton is a terrible coach. I mean, I just got to be honest. I mean, he's one of the bottom 3 or 4 coaches in the league, in my opinion. I think that team doesn't have a true identity. I don't think he knows what he wants to do with them as far as, pace and rotation. You could see a lot of guys looking a little bit bewildered there. And, I know Bogdanovich is a free agent at the end of the year. He'll be gone, but, some of those guys will be locked in. Did you happen to notice that the week before the All-Star break that De'Aaron Fox wasn't playing like over 25, 27 minutes?
I don't think I noticed that.
Because that was really a big concern of mine is, they didn't say anything about him being hurt, but, Walton was trying a lot of rotations in shifting things around a lot. So I don't know if because, he's a guy that has to be out there, and he's a guy that is a great guy to roster if I know he's going to get the 30 minutes plus that he should be getting every game. So, he's certainly an option. I'm going to dig in and see if I can find any other news, and I'll be tweeting that out and posting it on our website with Fox if there is anything to that. But, he's certainly in my pool of players to consider. Ja is not a good defender. He is rangy, but he's still, so thin and a little weak, even though he can jump out of the building, but he's not a great defender. So, both sides of that, I sort of like. Fox and Ja both have to be considered, in my opinion. I sort of like Valanciunas in this game, too. He's always better after some rest, and he's had a good rest period here. They should play him a little extra minutes just because, they usually only try to hold him to 30 around in that neighborhood. But coming off the break, I think he'll play a little bit more. And, he may be a fine play against, like you said, sort of a topsy-turvy big men group from Sacramento. So I do like the point guards here. I like Hield and Bogdanovich, but I always feel like I'm settling, like they're going to split the shots, and I never feel completely confident in rostering those guys. But I wouldn't blame you if you did, absolutely. But that's really about it for this game for me. Like I say, I think there's some key parts here, but you got to just figure out salary-wise and positionality-wise who's going to fit. So anything else there?
No, I'm ready for the late night hammer.
Late night hammer, 10:30. Interesting game. A lot of things to think about. Houston Rockets, the Golden State Warriors. Houston is a double-digit favorite, 10 points, so that's a concern. We have a 234 total, number 1 on the board. So everybody likes playing the late night hammer, and it is the highest total on the board. So everybody is going to be rostering the living daylights out of this game. And, it could be a real positive, or, it could sting a little. Now, one thing I will say, if there's any team in the league out of all 30 teams that keeps their guys in longer in a route, it's D'Antoni in Houston. I have no idea what he's thinking at times, but I've seen plenty of times he's had Harden in there specifically, and even Westbrook with a 30-point lead, 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So, you can't count on that obviously every time, but it does lessen the sting of worrying about a blowout in this game. So there's so many players, that are definitely in play in this one. So, implied totals, I don't know if I said those. 122 for Houston, which is number 1, and 112 for Golden State, with that 10-point spread. Pace-wise, Houston's second in the league. So not like the old days where, everybody thinks Harden comes up and dribbles the ball 16 times and then goes. But not this year with Westbrook and darting around, and then with them going with the Mighty Mites and playing 6'4.5" PJ Tucker at center. They are second in the league in pace, so it's a big pace-up game for Golden State, even though Golden State is not slow. They're 13th. Now, they've made a lot of player changes, so it's going to affect all their numbers. That's another thing I wanted to mention today, too, is the teams that made wholesale moves, like the Warriors with moving, guys like Burks and Robinson and all that, you've got to really watch statistically and understand that those aren't real numbers because you've got a core of different players on the floor, and that goes for pace, defense, etc. So, beware of it. Let at least 10, 15 game sample size dig in before you really take heed into the teams that made multiple moves. But they are 13, so they're getting up and down. I expect that they will, and they have announced that Curry is probably going to be back this season. I saw an interview last night with Steve Kerr, and he was adamant. He said, why would I hold him out when he's healthy? Our season ticket holders paid good money. He's one of the biggest shows in the game. And when he's 100%, which he's very close to right now, he's going to be out on the floor. So that's exciting news for them. He won't play in this game, obviously, but look for him to be back soon. And then from a defensive standpoint, Houston is 15th, which isn't bad. A lot of that is because Westbrook is a shutdown defender at the point, which you couldn't have said a couple of years ago when he was one of the worst. But his goal, his off-season preparation and goal this season was to be one of the best on-the-ball defenders at the point, and the guy's done it. You got to take your hat off to him. And Golden State, obviously not good defensively. They're 24th with the conglomeration of players that they send out there. All right, man. How are they going to win all the cash money and all these GPP games with this late-night hammer game?
Well, it's a great question, and I like your introduction there. A lot of moving parts here in this game with the different lineups, and a lot of players that you could play in this high total game. So I'll have some Harden, I'll have some Westbrook. The guy I think I'll probably play the most is PJ Tucker. On DraftKings, he's only 4K, and I think he's going to fit well with some of the other higher-priced players on this slate. I think he's one of the guys that's really going to benefit from the All-Star break. They were just running him into the ground.
Oh, he's top 10 minutes played.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Yeah.
So I think he'll benefit from the rest. I'll have him in a bunch of lineups, and we do have a big question mark for Houston as you're looking at the rotations. You mentioned it. Eric Gordon is questionable. I did read that he practiced yesterday, so I'm anticipating he's going to play, which is it's going to mess things up a little bit.
Definitely, because he takes some shots. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, and then we've also got Jeff Green on the roster now. He's not on the DraftKings slate, so you can't roster him if he suits
good
up.
Point. Yeah,
but that could affect the rotations a little bit. So I'll probably have a tiny bit of exposure to Covington, maybe a share or two of House, but they're both more expensive than Tucker, and he's my favorite play there on the Houston side. Over on Golden State, our listeners need to focus in on the new roster, like you said, the new rotations, the lineups. Jordan Poole apparently is going to start at point guard. And then Bowman is back in the picture. He'll be coming off the bench. Pargo, who's gotten some minutes lately, is not on the team anymore. So in case you missed that news, you don't have to worry about him. I think there's going to be a lot of ownership on Poole with the starting job, low price tag. I'm not going to have much of him, though. I'm going to look elsewhere on Golden State. I'll have some exposure to them. Wiggins at 7.6. I wonder if he'll have to deal with Covington, perhaps. That'll be an interesting matchup if they do. Those former teammates. So I think Covington could give him some trouble. So I'm not going to have a ton of exposure to him. Marquise Chris has been playing a lot better.
He has, yeah.
Of course, he's priced up now. He's 6.2.
That's crazy, man. I rostered him in 3.5 not that long ago.
Yep.
The heck.
So if you want to go with a full stack of this game, then I'd get Chris in there. Draymond is certainly in consideration, but like you said at the top, Coach, just a lot of options in this game. So play around with it. I guess if I can only play one guy from this game at their prices, it would be PJ Tucker.
Who do you like better between Harden and Westbrook?
Great question. I think I would lean toward Westbrook here.
Okay.
We've seen Golden State try some different things with Harden, double team him, try to get the ball out of his hands. I think they're both in play, but I'd lean towards Westbrook.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, this is an interesting game for me. I am 100% going to roster either Harden or Westbrook. And right now I'm about 60-40 on Harden, and I'm trying to make that determination. I may play a second cash lineup where I really roll the dice and pay down at center with Embiid and roster both Harden and Westbrook. I feel like this game is going to bust that total, which is already the highest, and those two guys can put 50, 60, 70 burgers on the board in a heartbeat. And, I think they're great plays. And trust me, I preach all the time. Do not play any player in a game just because the time of the game or if it's a national TV game, because you're going to lose. You got to pretend that, like this 6-game slate, when you're putting your lineup together, you have to erase from your brain and think they're all being played at the exact same time, and that shouldn't, and none of them are on TV or all of them are on TV. And you don't let any of those stupid ancillary things affect your play. Like, I'm going to stack this game because, it's a national TV game, it's a late game, it's a late night sweat, and I want to have 5 guys in this game. Yeah, this game, certainly you could roster 5 guys and it not be a bad play, but don't do it for the wrong reasons is my point. So you'll hear me get on my horse about a bunch of stuff like that throughout all these shows, because there are so many mistakes like that people make that are so easily correctable and, so much more winnable. So anyway, I'm with you, man. I like this game. I think it's surprising with the gigantic minutes that Tucker's going to get that his price is still that low. So certainly a good value play. I do like Harden and Westbrook, especially if Gordon sits. If Gordon sits, I'm going to jump out of my chair for those guys. If Gordon plays, then I'm not going to. I won't do that lineup I said with the 2 guys playing. But I'm not as sure as he's going to play. So I have to wait for that news to find out what's going on. On the Golden State side, you certainly can play a guy like Pascal if he's, I think, playable. Damian Lee is a little more expensive now, but man, is he good. I mean, he is one of their leaders out there. I like him a lot. I guess Draymond has to be at least mentioned, but I think all of those guys can be considered. I think you really do need, personally, at least in cash, to have either Harden or Westbrook in that line, because there's just so much potential to just crush in this game. And again, they stay in blowouts. So that's really what I think here on this one. Any thoughts, final thoughts on that big total game at the end of the night?
No, I think we covered all the main guys. Just one more thought on Houston. I think I probably won't go to the bench much. I do want to mention Rivers and McLemore. They're at almost minimum price. But, we've seen D'Antoni really shorten the rotation, as you say, even in blowouts, and play the starters heavy minutes. So I'm going to wait and see how the bench rotation plays out and probably just stick to the starters.
I'm with you, man. I am with you. All right. That's it. That's the slate. We've gone through all 6 games. I just did a quick double check to see if any of the player news changed. And we have no news that's changed except Kevin Huerter was added to the list as probable. I guess yesterday he had an allergic reaction to something, but he did go through shoot-around this morning and is expected to play. But something to know if you were considering Huerter as a flyer, he may not be 100%. So Other than that, we just need to follow some of this news. Looking back at it here, the big stuff with Gordon 50%, Hunter 50% are the two biggest ones that will shift a few plays for people without question. But other than that, it's a pretty cut and dry slate. It's a good slate, good mixture of good teams and bad, fast and slow, the whole 9 yards. So, that's mainly it. Any final thoughts from your side?
No, exciting start here to DFS Coach Talk, and excited to get going here on the back half of the season.
No doubt about it. And we'll start adding a lot of things in there. We're going to, we'll have some shows where we're giving value plays somewhere, like I alluded to earlier, the Secret Squirrel, which is like a really underdog pick of a low-owned, low-price guy. We're going to throw a lot of fun things in there. We'll have some shows where we build line up together live when we're doing the podcast with the two pros, and just a lot of fun things that'll keep it fresh and keep it exciting every day. And we're just excited. I mean, you've got a group of 7 guys that I think we've been all acting like we're 10-year-old boys going to the amusement park the last week. We're all so fired up. So it's fun, and we want to really exude that excitement each day to you guys and gals, because I know we have a lot of women players too. That's why Andrew's here. He draws the women in. So, and Michael drives them away, but that's another story. No, I'm just kidding. But actually, it's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to be consistent with it. You're going to know the format, what to expect. And we just, again, join us at DFSCoachTalk.com, online at DFSCoachTalk, and then all of our Twitter handles, you have those. Listen in on the podcast every day, and just remember to, give us those thumbs up and 5 stars, and throw a quick review in there if you can. And subscribe and hit that bell icon so when when our new shows come out. And again, toward the end of each show, we're going to mention the rest of this NBA season. Go to mambaon3.org, all spelled out in letters. That's a great fund for the basketball community, which we're all part of, to help out those people with their horrible loss. So we thank all of you for joining us. This is awesome. We're excited. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of DFS Coach Talk. We will catch you then when we look to crush it in NBA DFS.